Imagine if a doctor prescribed all of his patients the same medicine for every problem. It would be catastrophic. So why is it that modern day public schools teach kids who have different strengths and weaknesses the same? Well, children only make up 20% of our population. They make up 100% of our futures. I want you to ask yourself, do you think current education systems in place truly prepare the youth of today for the real world? Today I'm going to walk you through a few reasons why the modern education system is failing the children of today. We're going to cover the content that is taught in public schools, how that content is taught inefficiently, and the societal expectations of college, and why it's financially unfeasible. First off, starting with current high school curriculum. In current public high schools, the content that is taught is constantly questioned by students and parents, asking if it's actually useful and applicable in our lives. Well, it turns out a survey was taken, including 2,000 Americans, on behalf of H&R Block. They discovered that Americans estimate they've forgotten about 40% of what they learned and use about 37% of what they learned in their day-to-day lives. Among these 2,000 Americans, they wish they learned more practical skills. 50% wish they learned more about money management, 44% on how to do taxes properly, and 42% wish there was a class on how to manage mental well-being. Now, why is that we spend so much time and effort teaching subjects that have very little benefits and useful situations in our adult lives? It's preached that what we are taught in public high schools and colleges are detrimental to our future. But according to LinkedIn, around 50% of college graduates are in a profession that doesn't require their degree at all. So why is it that we spend so much time and money building an impressive resume and getting that 4-year degree just for half of us to end up getting a job that doesn't require a 4-year degree at all? I'd like to tell you guys a little bit about my dad. He went to college at Valley City State University a few years, and then a few years he dropped out. Currently, he is in a manager position at Costco that pays a salary well above what the average American makes. He didn't get this job by remembering Pythagorean theorem or how many protons are in a carbon atom, but by working hard and building experience. Enforcing the implementation of all these core classes in generals is doing nothing for our futures. I think the first few steps to help this problem is the introduction of more applicable and profession-based classes that are offered in high school. Classes like these taking priority over our current core classes like science, English, math, and social studies could be better to help students be more prepared for the future. Another way we could go about this problem is by including more real-world situations in current core classes. We're starting to see this with the introduction of speech counting as an English elective, or consumer math, teaching math problems that are used often in society. While this is a step in the right direction, there is still so much time wasted teaching things that should not be required to learn. Taking action stems from you advocating for the deregulation of state government involvement within public schools. The State Board of Education is in charge of creating the curriculum for each class, which should be a decision for the teachers and principals to make. The ones who actually teach and are there with the kids every day, not people who sit in an office building. I could go on and on about why what is taught is impractical, but we don't have all day. So moving swiftly on, I'd like to talk next about how this curriculum is taught inefficiently. Ex-teacher and current author John Gatto talks about this in his book, Dumbing Us Down. He talks about government schooling teaches young people to follow orders like a cog in a machine. Gatto argues Gatto argues that the compartmentalization of knowledge into subjects combined with a never-ending chase for good grades and test scores turns learning into a chore. Instead of nurturing and cultivating curiosity and wonder that is in the youth of our world, we make them memorize steps and spit it back out onto a piece of paper. Greek philosopher Aristotle noted that human beings are naturally curious by nature and enjoy the process of learning. The fact that students dread school shows there is something clearly wrong with the way things are done. The idea that things should be taught in one or two particular ways heal skills like critical thinking or adaptability. It's been widely believed that there is 4 varying types of learning styles: visual, oral, read, write, and kinesthetic. These are referred to as the VARK learning styles. A lot of times, we typically see a teacher pick one and stick with it for the entire class. This leads to each student having to adapt and match their teacher's learning style, or the student not being able to fully comprehend what is being taught. According to Muhammad Al-Rumi from the National Library of Medicine, students taught consistently with their learning styles learn more than students whose learning styles are mismatched with their instruction. It's important that we know the types of learning styles and the strengths and weaknesses that come with each one so students are able to learn as efficiently as possible. Some things we can do to help this problem is to have classes in which all the students in that class have the same learning style or favorite learning style. This means students in that particular class are able to be taught the same way while still being taught the best way for them, increasing the speed of comprehension and overall enjoyment of learning. Now, after 12 years of schooling, it is expected that kids go to college and study in a specific profession. The problem is students are told that they should go to college the next consecutive year after they're out of high school, and typically don't know what they want to do. According to the National Center of Education Statistics, 80% of college students change their major at least once. On average, college students change their major 3 times. This can get costly if the major isn't switched very early on in one's time in college. The price of college in general is too expensive. According to Carolyn Fast, Director of Higher Education and Policy and Senior Fellow, Americans across the political spectrum agree tuition costs are too high. Tuition costs have exceeded Tuition costs have grown faster than inflation over the last 30 years, even taking into consideration inflation. Even with inflation, tuition costs have more than doubled. College education is becoming too big of a risk for those who want the education but can't afford it. And the only other option is by going tens of thousands of dollars in debt. Remember how I told you a little bit about my dad? Well, now I'm going to tell you a little bit about my mom. My mom went back to college online to get her master's in nursing education. Well, she will have job security and make a good salary. She told me, I will be paying off my student debt well after I'm gone. It's kind of tough to grasp the concept that my mom's student debt will outlive her and probably be taken out of her life insurance. That just doesn't feel right to me. There are a few ways I think we could go about this situation. One, increase the amount of financial aid given out by government or colleges themselves. Or have a requirement dropping the cost of tuition to all public colleges. Another idea is have the government create places of higher education, like colleges or academies, that have affordable prices and are recognized as equal education levels as colleges. Lastly, but most importantly, is the ability for students to have the ability to start profession-based classes in high school where they have chances to explore options where they don't cost thousands of dollars. This will help students decide what they want to do when they're older, or at the least what they want to do, or at the least what they thought they wanted to do but don't anymore. Now, as we approach the end, I want you to envision a society where kids are able to learn things in high school that actually prepare them for their futures, where kids are taught according to their learning styles and strengths instead of a one-size-fits-all style. And lastly, where post-secondary education feels more like an optional path for those who are ready for it, and where it's affordable for whoever wants to go. It's a world where skills and traits like critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration are nourished and allowed to grow. I know this might be a controversial topic for some. I get it. Change is scary. But I encourage you to have an open mind and think about some of the things I said today. Thank you.